And people complain about, at points, the cycling lane ends and then suddenly you're at the bus stop or MRT.
Then you
got to stop. You're like, what are you? You have to get off and push. And people don't trust when they say that there'll be enforcement. So in the same way, people look at this, they're like, how are you going to enforce this on cyclists, right? Errant cyclists.
Understanding whether the employee needs more support and all that.
Small care, they call it small care gestures.
Small care gestures, yeah. When you're sick, the last thing you want to see is your boss showing up at your doorstep. Up the enforcement.
Yeah.
Have people just walking around Singapore looking for your colleagues, all these enforcement officers.
That means they don't go to their house, they just hang out downstairs.
They just hang out downstairs. Singapore has got some amazing buildings. But have you ever wondered how they're designed by architects? Starting from an idea all the way to the final structure? It's pretty mind-blowing. And you should definitely check out episode 677, where we talk to an architect and sustainability expert who's worked on some amazing projects, including the Park Royal Collection Pickering in Singapore. He also dives deep into the importance of sustainability in architecture and the critical role it plays in designing for a more climate-friendly future. This episode was done in partnership with the Building and Construction Authority. And if you want to find out more about a possible career in the industry, please check out their website buildsg.gov.sg or click on the link in the show notes. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
How's the week coming along, man?
Pretty good. Back to regular programming, right? In terms of last week was the comedy show, took up most of our time. We had an excellent chat with Ho Kwon Ping, of course. Yeah. They came out on Monday. But yeah, it's all been good.
All's been good. I mean, today the weather took a turn, right? But I mean, June was hot in general.
Yeah, it was hot as hell. Yeah, right. I would love for it to be raining like that every day.
I think the first half of July there's more rains predicted.
Yeah, but it's still going to be hot though.
Hot. Yeah. But you win some, you lose some.
Win some, you lose some. But it's that kind of. It rains. It's very nice until it rains. Then once it rains, it's hot as hell again.
Yeah.
Like maybe more humid. Ugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, now people back to school and all. Singapore going to start feeling crowded again.
Yeah. So how was your weekend?
Weekend I was in Malacca.
Oh yeah.
Malacca for a family trip.
Yeah. It's your first drive up Malaysia.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it a lot going up. Coming back down because when I use Waze, going up, it told me go second link. Coming back, it started off telling me second link, but halfway through, it changed its mind, and in the end, I ended up at Woodlands.
Well, we'll talk about Waze versus Google Maps later, but overall, this experience of driving, how do you feel about it?
I loved it, and it really opened up my mind to oh, damn, Malaysia is huge.
Yeah.
There's so many places to visit. Driving up was nice because, previously, if I took bus and all, it's easy to just zone out,
Yeah.
But driving, of course, you have to pay attention to the road, but you just appreciate the size of Malaysia a lot more.
Yeah. When I've driven to Muar, Malacca, everything, that's drive is actually really scenic as well.
I think that's the most scenic one. I took the more
the normal
standard,
route.
not south. But the next one, I want to the other road.
You go to Muar, it's a very scenic drive.
Oh, is it?
Way there.
You can see the coast and all.
Yeah, I can't remember the coast, but you're going through plantations and everything. So it's something you don't get here.
Yeah,
and
man.
the experience of driving and just enjoying the long distance and listening to a playlist on Spotify or whatever.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's very nice. Yeah,
and
my family really enjoy it.
My extended family came from KL down to Malacca, and it's something that I think Singaporeans we cannot fathom. You're going to a totally different part of the country without passport.
Yeah,
and you are going there for holiday, and it's wow. That's insane. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So very eye opening
Yeah, and Malacca itself interesting.
Not as interesting as I would have thought. Also because it was a family trip with 17 people.
Yeah.
So moving around and exploring a bit hard. But the certain parts quite charming Quite charming.
Yeah. What do you do in Malacca that was the most fun?
Most fun. I took a boat ride. Along the main river, I guess.
Correct.
Touristy area but the boat ride was nice.
So conclusion is
Malaysia
a car. Is it a necessity in Singapore?
It's not a necessity,
okay,
but it can really be very enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's not a necessity. My whole life I've been going to KL via bus. I mean, when train was around, train, once in a while fly. And I was getting by. But car is just a new experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing it with your family also, right?
Yeah, first time like my baby was like in a car for like that long.
Yeah.
So thankfully everything went smooth. We made it back before VEP is enforced.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And why? So yeah, why do you use Waze and not Google Maps or something?
I mean, from what I heard from people driving, I think you also, that Waze has a lot of real-time data that updates. Google Maps, a bit less so. La.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuck to Waze.
Yeah. My Google Maps also, when I was like, coming back from Perth to Singapore to come back for GE 2025, right? My Google Maps just went nuts on my way back. So
when you mean Perth to the
airport, yeah.
The way you say Perth from Singapore, I'm like, hey, Terrence.
Perth to the airport, my Google Maps just went nuts. So every 10 seconds, it was like, recalculating, rerouting. At the end of the day, it became useless because of that. But the bigger problem is at the end, it also ate up all my data because it kept rerouting. So by the time I got back to the airport, my data was done already, and then I had, it ended up like being charged more for that.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so Google Maps has its downsides.
But how come you never use Waze there?
Don't know. I mean, though, because over there, there's I don't know. I just used Google Maps and there was CarPlay and everything, so it was very convenient. It was through the car. So I don't know whether you can use Waze with CarPlay and all. But Google Maps initially worked perfectly fine until the very last leg I had to travel. So I don't know. But Waze seems to have
Seems okay.
No, but it saboed you this one.
Yeah, never tell me. Because I wanted to go by second link.
Then why do you check the map or like the camera or anything? There's a camera, that tells you which one is more crowded.
I mean, I was just following the map
Okay.
I just
you put your mind in. You put your hands. You put your life in the hands of AI
Yeah, I was like, I have faith. Waze, bring me home.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was like, wait, why is it going to Woodlands? And Woodlands, the roads and all, it just feels like if someone were to build Woodlands checkpoint from scratch and make it as efficient as possible, it will look very different.
Of course,
yeah. It blows my mind.
It's patched. It feels very patched together when you go through Woodlands. Yeah.
There's one part where there are 4 lanes, one for buses, one for motorcycles, one for cars, one for lorries. And all the other lanes are empty, but the car one is damn long.
Yeah, correct.
Almost feels like, why is it equal weight across the 4 different types of vehicles?
Yeah. And the thing is that even though the car one's long, there's still a lot of queue cutting that happens.
Yeah.
And it's damn annoying because you try to be a good person, a good citizen. Right?
Yeah. And then you see these cars go past.
Zoom past you, and then after that, they're squeezing their way in. And nobody's enforcing anything, right? Enforcing the rule that this lane is not. So that annoys me, but it's also very relevant to what we're going to be talking about, right?
Yeah. Whereas the Tuas one was very smooth.
Yeah.
I don't know, coming back, will it be as smooth? I assume it would be. But yeah, the nice thing about Woodlands is you can see a bit more of JB,
Correct, yeah.
So I mean, overall positive.
Oh, nice.
Positive.
So you bought into the whole Singapore and JB outfits. Now we move to buy property in Sembawang and then go
because
to JB.
Because end of 2026, the train also going to start operating. Right?
Yeah. I believe that's what everyone is angling us towards, to be more comfortable with more travel to JB, to make sure that your Sing dollar goes further. And also, like the other way around, for more Malaysians to come to Singapore to work, and we just accept that it is what it is.
But I don't know about Malaysian politics, whether for them, JB, they want more people to be spending time in Singapore, like Malaysians spending time in Singapore. I don't know. I don't know. You can see it being quite polarizing.
It could be. Could be interesting to talk to people from Malaysia, understand better as well. Right?
Can you imagine next time you complain about cost of living, you're like, take bus to JB?
Yeah. You buy this, buy that, go to JB.
Suddenly CDC vouchers can be used in JB also.
Wow, that'll be next
level. But relevant to today's topics.
Yes. But before all that, what do we always tell people?
That if you are new to the podcast or old to the podcast but have yet to follow us on social media, please do. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, and even our newsletter. Our newsletter. It's called Your Little Bit, which is a weekly summary of our Shiok Things.
Yeah.
A lot of people have asked in the past, do you have a list of your Shiok Things compilations? Because sometimes you have to go back into the episode. Fear no more is that this email, every Thursday, it will go out with all the Shiok Things from the past week. So it will always be there. So please sign up at yalabat.com or ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
Because we're also announcing some exciting stuff in the near future. lah.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, and if you want to work with us, email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just check out ministryoffunny.com.
Sweet. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Let's jump into it. What is this contentious topic?
This contentious topic is that as of July 1st, 2025, cyclists will be potentially fined or even jailed if they are caught riding on pedestrian-only paths. I think this was first announced in 2024.
Yep.
Over the past few years, there's been a lot of concerns of like safety of pedestrians, safety of cyclists, safety of users of personal mobility aids, PMAs, or personal mobility devices, PMDs. And this is the latest regulation that has been passed. Because since August 2024, when this initiative was announced, about 200 kilometers of footpaths next to cycling lanes have been turned into pedestrian-only paths by the LTA. So now the next step is, now that they are differentiated paths, if you are a cyclist and you're caught cycling in the pedestrian-only path, even if you're within the speed limits, you can be fined up to $2,000 or jailed up to 3 months or both.
Yeah.
But conversely, pedestrians who balong into cycling paths, no penalties.
Correct.
Yeah. So, as a big proponent of cyclists, Terence.
Yes.
What do you make of this?
Excuse me. I think generally, I actually do use a lot of cycling paths. I do recreational cycling, but the non-spandex variety. And I use it also to, send my kid to school and stuff like that. So I have used these newly converted cycling paths that are alongside pedestrian paths. And they're actually very pleasant to use. They're much more pleasant than squeezing past people on the normal lanes. At least the ones that I've been used at, right?
But pleasant, why? Because of
they generally are wider. There's been a concerted effort to make these cycling paths slightly wider than what the pedestrian paths used to be. And because they're so clearly demarcated with the red brick, the red color and everything, people know that if you're a cyclist there and you ring someone, they can't blame you. You're on the cycling path. Whereas last time, I get this anxiety about having to ring people, and there's a lot of calculation in my head about, how far away is the person? I want to ring as far as possible, but they must still be able to notice and hear me, right? But I want to ring as far as possible so they don't feel like I'm giving a fuck you ring to them, right? So yeah, all those calculations that I used to have to do when cycling on pedestrian walkways, when I use cycling paths, I don't have to, right? And maybe that trade-off is that, there are certain more rules that I have to observe as a cyclist that involve like not going onto the pedestrian path, and maybe that's what we have to accept. That there's just within the infrastructure we have to do it now. Don't overdo it, Harish. I think people are already complaining that the sound was like horrible, was like scratching a chalkboard to their ears.
Yeah.
But yes.
For those who did not get that reference, you can listen to episode 681.
Yes.
So that means you as a user of these red paths, you kind of accept that, this might be the way forward.
Correct. And I don't really buy into the argument of like, it's not fair. Pedestrians should be fined for stepping on cyclist paths. Yeah.
Why not?
Because I think a pedestrian is very different from someone on a bicycle. On a bicycle, you can go really fast. You're like a speeding bullet, and you could hit somebody and kill them straight away, right? Pedestrians in general, even if you're jogging or something, you bump to somebody, you're not going to kill anybody, right? And if you veer onto the cyclist path and then the cyclist has to avoid you, I think the onus is on the cyclist because you are in a more dangerous form of transport. The onus is on the cyclist to be more aware.
For cars, how is it as a pedestrian? Is it like even if they're crossing on a red light, you as a driver would still be somewhat liable? You will be liable because you as a driver are supposed to exercise more care and more concern because you are given a license to drive what can be a killing machine, right? So in that sense, I think cyclists also in that way, as much as people think that they are all very considerate, very very careful cyclists,
at the end of the day, you are walking around with 15 to 20 kilograms of steel, between your legs, right?
Yeah.
And that can be used, that could end up like hurting people really badly, yeah. Yeah. But okay. So that was my take on it. As much as people think that I really hate cycling, but I enjoy cycling a lot. It's just our infrastructure is just not built for cycling. And these are the little milestones that we have to reach in order to get to a point where we're like the Netherlands or something, where cycling is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of accept that. But how about you?
I mean, initially it was like, it's really, I mean, it's like what we have spoken about, like Singapore in general, where it's headed, right? It's almost everything must be as efficient, as utilitarian as possible, and like we give you this, but the rules need to be in place, and don't do this and don't do that. But at the end of the day, what would be the alternative? A shared path? I mean, for the longest time, one common sentiment is like, hey, on the roads also, can there be cycling lanes,
Yeah.
On pathways, cycling lanes. I think it's been brought up in the past, especially when PMDs and all were going to be banned. So in this case, it's almost like two sides of the same coin. Like, you can do a shared path where people can be fined for flouting the speed limit and all, or different paths with some rules. So as much as I also feel like, what, this rule really necessary, man? I think it is something that does kind of make sense. I think I'm just sad that this is the reality that we have to go down.
Yeah.
But of course, if you depend on people to go by logic and sense, everybody is guilty of being an idiot sometimes, myself included. So this one feels like, okay lah. What I would wish for is like, okay, if 1 year, right, if it really dips until damn low, we will lift this. I would like that.
What dips until very low?
Like the issues of like
the rates
flouting or like people. So almost like the thing about now, is it still, can you still get fined if you don't return trays? You still can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but it's almost, you don't think about it anymore because it's part of our behavior, which is a positive thing. In this case, I guess, it would be good if cyclists don't go onto pedestrian paths. But to me, it's not as stark as like returning trays. Like, you don't return tray, you're an asshole, it inconveniences everyone. This one, if you go on the pedestrian path, will come back a bit more grey. So if there was one tweak, would be like, okay, if we go below the certain number of people who are flouting the rule, we will ease the thing.
Yeah. Correct. I mean, your mouth, there's a little dribble of milk in there. And the teeth of the establishment.
On the teeth. Yeah.
No, but it's true. Like, I mean, when we read this, obviously, the emotions are right. People are quite emotional about this, but I do feel people's anger that is directed towards pedestrians is kind of directed wrongly, right? I feel like you want to direct your anger about this rule to people. One will obviously be the government, right? Because as I mentioned, our infrastructure isn't built for cycling, and people have pointed out that why do they have to widen the walkways for cyclists and pedestrians to share? Why not shrink the number of the number of space for cars, right? And then have one lane that's just dedicated to bikes. That's a bigger question that I think even if it was implemented, it'll take many years to get through. So that one you can go and take out the government. But I think the other side that people also should be a bit more upset about, if they want to be angry about this, is more about enforcement, right? Because we know that PMDs and all are banned in most places. But we all also know that there are people who are flouting a lot of rules when it comes to personal mobility aids and things like that. The size of it, how fast they travel. And we see so many instances of it. We know that it's against the law, but nothing seems to be done about it, right? The enforcement seems so sporadic. It seems like wayang only. Everywhere you walk, your house downstairs or anything, there will be a illegally sized or illegally modded PMA, So people don't trust when they say that there'll be enforcement. So in the same way, people look at this, they're like, how are you going to enforce this on cyclists, right? Errant cyclists? Because I have met my fair share of cyclists who are very quite rude, quite demanding on pedestrians or other slower cyclists, and they shout at them and things like that. So now, even if you see a cyclist, like you say, flouting the rules, how are you going to enforce, right? we don't carry in-car dash cams on us. We don't wear cameras or GoPros on us at all times as pedestrians. You're not going to be able to submit any footage to LTA or whatever. But how is LTA is going to enforce this? If they can't even enforce the PMD thing or PMA ban effectively, how are they going to enforce this cyclist thing?
So that's your concern, is it?
That's my thing. I think people are angry or saying that it's not fair. Why there are a lot of shitty pedestrians who veer over that. But I feel that anger shouldn't be directed at the pedestrians. There are these two groups that you should direct more of your anger towards: the government and also the enforcement agencies.
But the enforcement agencies, like why would people why could they be angry at these enforcement? In fact, if it's less enforced, then it's better for the cyclists who are pissed off at this rule.
But if a law is just it's like a wayang kind of law, like it's just there as a law, but nobody's enforcing it, such that people still flout it all the time, which a lot of people feel about PMDs and PMAs, then what's the point? It's just lip service only.
But if you think about it, the number of PMDs and PMAs who are errant it feels like it's decreased.
Accidents, the number of accidents.
But even like walking and all, I feel it has decreased.
But you haven't seen those giant PMAs?
Seen, but compared was last time more common.
Oh, I don't know about the statistics lah. I don't have them in front of me. But I still see a lot of these big ones that are obviously not, and the people using them are obviously not like disabled or anything or need them lah, right? I still see a lot of them around.
So like anecdotally, you feel that things haven't changed much?
They've changed. It's just, but people have been able to find ways around the rules. Like the PMAs, maybe they are able to get a license to use them, but there's like a whole family of people sitting on them, for example, right? There's obviously flouting the rules, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that enforcement has become a bit of a joke with that whole PMA situation.
I mean, for me, that one, in fact, I feel like these enforcement officers, like active mobility enforcement officers, this one I feel like as a role, right? Like, I mean, they say some of them are ambassadors also, ambassador volunteers.
Yeah.
Now, why the hell would somebody volunteer for this kind of role?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just a way to stay active and all, but you're immediately going to be disliked. It's going to be damn hard to enforce, but apparently they can use CCTVs and all to catch people. They have like the speed cameras and all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just feels. Can you remember last time when cycling was so easy?
Yeah.
Now is like cycling is like approaching driving like that,
Right. Yeah.
But maybe that as we get more crowded, as people get more stressed, is a necessity Then the government will say, cycle freely, you go JB
Exactly.
That'll be the thing You want that, no rules.
Yeah, no rules.
Anywhere else you can cycle.
Yeah.
So I guess it's almost like the sad reality is that in a space constrained country like Singapore, these kind of things are necessary. But do I disagree with it? I don't know. What is the alternative?
Yeah.
The shared paths and all would be like, it's tricky. In this case, I don't know whether we're going to see more people like taking photos and like, videos and all that. And maybe it's a broader discussion. Should by all bicycles be licensed? Just have a plate there.
Yeah.
Then in some way, you're giving more responsibility for the citizen vigilantes.
Yeah.
But maybe it also makes people feel like, okay, this is a bit more legit.
Correct. Yeah. I do think also people are also calling out why aren't roads being shrunk? Or at least lanes being dedicated to bicycles as opposed to widening pathways. Right?
In the new HDB towns like Tengah and all, still no, right?
I don't think so, yeah. I know there was like, they were trying to have like bicycle lanes. They were testing bicycle lanes in Tampines or something, right? I think I've driven past some of these before. But for the most part, it's not, it doesn't seem to be, we don't seem to be budging or moving towards a car light nation. The cars seem to take priority. And I can understand why people are irritated that pedestrians and cyclists have been bunched together. And it seems like cyclists have been particularly targeted. But the reality is infrastructure will take a while to develop. And even when we talked about the autonomous vehicles, it's not like they want to implement, then just buy 50 from China and overnight we have autonomous vehicles. There's a lot of the infrastructure that we need to figure out before autonomous vehicles can be used, right? So I can imagine like trying to make Singapore car light, if the metric is just number of kilometers of bicycle lanes, people, they mentioned that's not a great metric to judge yourself off. The metric should be how many % of population actually take up cycling to go to work, to buy groceries and do all that stuff, right? I think now it's a very low percentage of 2 to 3% or something like that. I mean, if we can raise it anywhere to 5 to 10, that'd be amazing, right?
I mean, cycling lanes would be amazing. I would get back to cycling.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, like new towns and all. Because at the end of the day, it's a bicycle lane on the road as wide as the bicycle lane on the footpath is all that's required.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, changing that would be monumental. But we all know that in Singapore, if we really want to do something, we can. Can be done. So, I mean, there's no talk about cycling lanes being the future thing.
No. They're sort of, apparently, according to some statistics, we're also spending a lot more money building each kilometer of these cycling lanes compared to other cities in the world. Right?
Yeah.
I think there's a Rise Media article about that. And but at the same time, it's not very efficient. It's not a very unified, smooth experience when using the PCNs or the cycling lanes. And people complain about, at points, the cycling lane ends and then suddenly you're at a bus stop or MRT. You're going to stop. You're like, why are you? You have to get off and push and all these things. And even my experience, also getting on the cycling lane, I will pass by some bus stop or MRT, and then there will suddenly be a sign that you have to get off and push, and then you slowly get off and push. Then I don't know where that ends, and then where it goes back to being a shared pathway again, and then after the cycling lane again, and then a road crossing. So it's all just seems very a bit like what we're talking about, like Woodlands checkpoint and that, very cobbled together, right, over the years. So this sounds like a good initiative, but it feels like not enough public education about how exactly people should be going about thinking about cyclists.
Yeah, maybe that's why cyclists are pissed. They're like, everything is like giving us less liberty.
Yeah.
Compared to when I used to cycle last time, felt like, okay, you can kind of, there wasn't enough accidents to warrant people saying, hey, what the hell are you all doing?
Yeah.
But over the years, it's being chipped off.
Yeah.
So maybe, that is the internal feeling. And I mean, going back to what you said about, sometimes the path ends, you don't know what to do. I guess maybe that's why they cannot find pedestrians for going to cyclist path. Because imagine you come out of your HDB and you need to cross the cycling path to get to the pedestrian path.
Yeah.
Then how?
Yeah.
You're like, fuck. Like, if someone take a photo, I'm screwed.
Yeah. And then if your uncle or auntie who walks slower and you're trying to cross the path.
Then you have to walk one big loop and come back and all.
Yeah.
Or they got little bridges or safe havens.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about the URA master plan and all, you look at it, there's nothing about cycling lanes.
Yeah.
Which feels like, why cannot? Why cannot?
I mean, if one way to start, I really do wish that certain areas will be close to cars, like say Orchard Road or something like that. We every weekend close it to vehicles so that whether it's cyclists or just pedestrians can just walk freely around the area, right? And just get people used to the idea that, hey, some of our most iconic locations in Singapore, when there are no cars, how pleasant and beautiful it is, right? Whereas now, like you say, everything feels very functional, like to get from point A to point B. If you are going to the park, then you can cycle and that kind of thing. It shouldn't be the case. It should be like, you want to go to town? It'll be a nice cycle there, right?
Yeah. And those are the things that I think excite me about the future of Singapore. I think it's very easy to say, functional stuff, the soul is gone and all. And to do the bicycle lanes, you have to do so much infrastructure change. But that's where the belief in Singapore being able to do cool shit like this, be the world's first city that has a cycling lane everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it'll be the world's first city, but those sort of things are exciting. And I feel we can.
Yeah.
It's just, so it'll be good to get like Jeffrey Xiao on.
Oh, yes.
Ask him about COE.
Ask him about,
bicycle lanes.
Bicycle lanes, Interesting.
Interesting, man.
But there's it's not just cyclists that are getting pissed off, right?
Yeah.
There's another group of people who work in very public-facing roles who also may be very pissed off with their employers, right?
Yeah.
Who are this group of people?
It is the group of Cisco officers, Certis Cisco officers, who apparently, at least up till last week, were required to either remain at home when on MC or share their live location. And if they don't, they will face disciplinary action. So I think someone flagged this up to Mothership, who wrote an article that talked about like back in March 2025, the management had issued a directive that all officers on medical leave must always remain at their declared residential address. If they're not found at their declared homes during unannounced supervisor visits, dubbed Get Well Soon visits, the officers must submit their live GPS location via WhatsApp or conduct a video call. Those who fail to comply with these directions would receive a warning letter or face disciplinary actions which could culminate in termination, regardless of the validity of their medical certificate. So since then, Certis has come out and clarified that they do not require, or they will stop requiring officers on sick leave to share live location when not at home, because at the pressure of the union, the Union of Security Employees, USC. So, I mean, on one hand, we were talking about, regulations to curb errant behavior by cyclists. This one is regulations to curb errant behavior of security officers, security employees.
And it goes all the way into your home, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
to share live locations.
When you read it, you're like, wow, they do this unannounced supervisor visits. What they defended by is like understanding whether the employee needs more support and all that.
Small care, they call it small care gestures.
Small care gestures. Yeah, when you're sick, the last thing you want to see is your boss showing up at your doorstep. So reading this, I'm like, wow. Tricky. But then they so quickly kind of like stop that. So that means the union pressure must have been quite high.
I mean, it's a real bad look, right? It shows that it's a very army kind of way of doing things. I don't know if you remember, last time BMT, they also warned you like that, right? If you got a 10C, which is the medical certificate in the army, they would tell you that, if you're not at your house, if you're seen outside, an officer can ask you for your 11B, which is your army military identification. Then they'll charge you for malingering if you go out while you're supposed to be at home resting on MC. Right?
Yeah, correct.
And being a Cao recruit at BMT at that time, probably everyone is very scared that would happen. But in my mind, I was like, actually, what's the likelihood of that happening, right? A likelihood of someone randomly walking up to you, assuming that you are an army boy, and then asking you for your 11B and all. But they always said it like, there are these plainclothes officers around, and it's meant to strike fear in people's hearts. Did you ever, do you remember that from BMT?
I do. Yeah. I do remember.
Do you think that they really enforce that?
I mean, it goes back to the same thing, right? Because even what Certis said was this whole system was designed to address instances of system misuse and not to penalize employees. And it's almost like they put it out there so that people don't abuse, which I guess was the army tactic also.
Yeah.
This could happen if you do it, but we might not enforce. I mean, certain rules also, right, were not enforced. I think up till 377A being repealed, it was kind of said, I don't know whether officially or not, that this rule will not be enforced unless absolutely necessary. It was 377A, right?
Not about absolutely necessary. They just said that it won't be enforced.
It won't be enforced. And that's why it got repealed. Of course, it resulted in some other constitutional changes. But in this case, so in the company's defense, I guess for them, because their staff count is probably pretty high, they deal with security. If people are caught malingering or kind of abusing the system, the impact can be quite high. And according to them, they say there have been situations where officers took MCs to travel overseas. Of course, on Reddit, some people pointed out that Certis does employ people from Malaysia. So if they take MC and they go overseas, does this refer to those sort of people who are maybe just going to Malaysia? I think for a while Certis, I think anecdotally, some people on Reddit pointed out that they don't accept non-Singapore MCs, which, I mean, debatable also. But I think sounds like there's a problem that they're trying to solve.
But they did check on those two officers who were caught malingering. They did go to do house visits to them and found them overseas. And then after that, subsequently fired them. But they said that the firing was not not specifically because of the malingering, right?
Yeah.
But, I guess as an employer, you think about like, if you're in that situation where you're handling a lot of stuff and, everyone will come to you with various reasons of why they need to, take leave or take MC and all that. Can you fault the company for implementing what seems like a very draconian measure, and then like, is there any alternative that they can do?
Yeah, that's the thing lah. That's the thing. I think it's very easy to say like, oh, this policy is terrible and all. I mean, okay, of course, I still think this policy is ridiculous and unnecessary. But
what's the alternative though? Trust.
That one also, I think the older I get also, I'm like, okay, let's not be naive. Okay, humans are humans. Human nature is human nature. Sometimes you really just can't leave everything to trust lah. But it still feels that I would like to I would prefer if the companies still didn't have to resort to this and make it more clear the penalties of absenteeism if caught lah.
Yeah.
So it's like, generally, even for companies and all, if people are caught malingering and all, there might not be explicit policies, but if you hear through the grapevine or there's something that comes up, something that is flagged, you can still penalize the person for being dishonest, for like faking that one. So there are penalties in place rather than go down the path of like this lah. So it's to up the enforcement. Have people just walking around Singapore looking for your colleagues, all these enforcement officers.
That means they don't go to their house, they just hang out downstairs.
They just hang out downstairs. There's a team at Certis Cisco. I mean, they clearly have a team that can do these house visits.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they deal with security, so they definitely have people who can do this.
I don't know, like for you?
I think ultimately the problem here is not that they punished people for malingering, but the problem is the invasion of privacy, right? That means using technology, getting people to share live location and all these things.
That was like COVID time.
Yeah, it's like COVID time. It's like Trace Together, basically. That's where it just feels really wrong, where someone can't even go downstairs to buy a coffee if he's not feeling great, or buy a tea or something, right? And if they leave their house, they have to be worried that someone will come and check on them. When that's the last thing you should be worrying about when you're sick. When you're sick, you should be focused on, doing what you need to do to get better so that you can go back to work and not endanger everyone else by bringing your sickness to work, right? So in that sense, if someone is caught malingering, I think they should only be catching people based on having the supervisor talk to them, either before or after they take MC, right? To understand, and then the supervisor has to make a judgment call about whether there was malingering involved, and then if there needs to be an escalation into an investigation about whether there was malingering, then that's where I think they can ask for things like, show us your passport, to show that you didn't travel out of the country or things like that, as opposed to something so invasive like, please share your live location with us if you're leaving downstairs to go and buy your lunch. I think that's the part that is that triggers people. I thought I was very smart. I was like, oh, why do you reward people for if they don't use their sick leave and everything? But a quick Google search, actually, it's illegal to have incentive schemes for not using your sick leave. That means you can't say, oh, very good, this year you didn't use your sick leave, I'll reward you another few $100.
Oh, because you're incentivizing people.
So and this was actually quite recent, 1st January 2023, that MOM implemented this.
Before that,
I suppose it was okay. But from 1st January 2023, companies with incentive schemes that consider statutory sick leave utilization will face enforcement action. So you can't reward people for not taking leave. But it makes sense because you don't want people to be sick and then still coming to work so that they can get extra few $100 bonus or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, you have to do the old school supervisor way of doing things, right?
I mean, the good thing is like when people at human resource solutions companies or agencies were interviewed for the CNE article, they did say that the Certis policies appear to be an outlier because some industries do have more critical operational requirements and they might have stricter attendance monitoring. But what Certis is doing is not the norm. Because you almost imagine, right, if they are doing it, they're not the only security company. maybe others are doing it. Maybe it's just one of those that we as the outsiders, all the woke people, they're like, hey, how can you do this? But apparently it's an outlier.
Yeah. I mean, a surveillance company doing surveillance on its employees.
Yeah. They're living and breathing their culture. Right?
Exactly.
Right or not?
Yeah. But I also found it funny how the union of security employees, when they did their their statement saying that they're working with Certis to relook these policies, they also took a photo of them, sitting in the meeting room with the Certis employees. And they all look very friendly. It looks like very cordial, almost like stock photo. Like this is what a meeting between a union and a security company looks like. I'm wondering how the discussion went. Whether it was so cordial or whether they were like, "Hey, what the fuck, guys? What are you doing?" Right?
Yeah. So I mean, because the turnaround was quite fast, man.
Yeah, it's very fast. Yeah,
like 2 days or something.
Yeah, and to change company policy in such a big company with so many people, it's not overnight kind of thing, right?
And maybe the security officers also, they realize, hey, things can change if we kind of whistle blow them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But I mean, this kind of thing. Yeah, it's the same thing like the first story. Like how punitive do you want to be about errant behavior? On one hand, you can incentivize it. Maybe what Certis should have is like every few days, there'll be like a treasure hunt. Like somewhere in Punggol. If you go there and press this button, right, you get $2,000. So anytime you want to use that, if you want to test whether people are really on MC, you just announce it that day.
Specifically.
So you're luring a trap for all these errant, what's the truant? Playing truant.
Malingering employees.
Malingering, you bait them.
But they can just send someone else to go and find that treasure, right?
It's not well thought out, Terrence. It's just a first thought.
But you're still incentivizing employees to, not abuse the sick leave, right?
Yeah.
So there's the hard part. It becomes a bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
But I agree, especially when it comes to the security industry, when shifts and schedules are very can be quite rigid, and it's very difficult to find last minute replacements.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they did this, but it just feels, I think they just overstepped the boundary when you asking people to share live location. It was almost like a over possessive boyfriend or girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
You read about on like Reddit or whatever, those like the boyfriend's demanding, send me a picture of you and your friend having dinner now. Send me a picture of where you are. I'm tracking your live location and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did also clarify that this policy applies only to their frontline officers, which I guess has a big operational requirement. But still feels like, this one... I mean, I'm glad that it was highlighted that the union lobbied against it and they overturned it.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine in these sort of industries that are more old school, a lot of not so good practices being done.
Yeah, correct.
So, yeah.
But yeah.
Not bad. The union got teeth.
Ng Chee Meng. He's focusing on his job.
I mean, USC is an affiliate of NTUC, but they're not NTUC.
Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, the NTUC is a congress of all the unions, right? So,
yeah.
So, yeah, well done, USC.
Yeah, well done.
USC.
But yeah, speaking of well done, what is your one Shiok comment of this past weekend, if anything?
I mean, I guess quite relevant also to some of the things we have said is there's this channel called Ringgit and Dollars. And it's basically a vlog channel by a Singaporean guy who is a Grab rider. And the video that caught my attention is titled How a Grab Rider Lives in a $1.4 million Villa Earning 6 Figures. So basically, it's a 6-minute video about this Singaporean guy who moved to JB.
Okay.
Lives in a villa for $550 a month, renting it. And he breaks down how much he spends living there and how much he earns by being a Grab rider in Singapore.
Yeah.
So every day he commutes to Singapore, he drives, he says, the petrol is 3 times cheaper. He saves this, cost of living is cheaper, is more peaceful and all that. And feels like he's going to be documenting a lot of his journey building a life in JB.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to see this. And I mean, quite well done, like good audio and all that. So quite compelling, new channel, and yeah, interesting. So if you go to his channel, there's a lot of videos about let's see, Malaysia cost of living versus Singapore median salary, Grab rider earns SGD 6,000 per month. I show proof and share how. So interesting videos, especially with all this talk around JB lah.
And this one was a comment on our subreddit.
Was it?
I think someone brought it up, right?
Oh
no. Oh, this was your one Shiok thing. Was it?
My one. Oh shit!
Oh, you went in your one Shiok thing before.
I went my one Shiok thing first. Wow,
I was like, where? I remember something about reading about this, but I did not remember reading on it.
Shit! I did one Shiok thing first.
Okay.
So you can go one Shiok comment. Then when you do your one Shiok thing, I'll go one Shiok comment.
Yeah, sure. I mean
oh my god, 680 plus episodes, and I just fucked it up.
Just totally forgot.
Fucked it up.
I mean the interesting comment. I like it that people are posting about different news articles on our Yalabat subreddit, right? And there was a recent case of someone who was convicted for very dangerous driving that caused the death of a pillion rider on a motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
And someone posted, not sure, Mark W. Jacob posted, not sure if this is in the spirit of Yalabat, but this article blew my mind. And because we have a lot of new listeners here, and maybe they wonder how come we don't talk about some of these things that occupy the mental space of people, right? But I mean, we do read these articles, but a lot of times there's almost no but to the story, right? Sometimes, and because Yalabat, we try to look at stories from different angles, but sometimes the story just doesn't have another angle, and it just doesn't make sense for us to talk more about it. It really was just like really errant behavior from a driver who caused the death of a motorcyclist and a pillion rider. And then there's really not much more we can add to that conversation. So if people are wondering how come we don't talk about some of these cases that a lot of people are talking about, it's because sometimes there's just really no but to the story, right?
I was expecting there to be at least some but you read the article.
Yeah, you know that case I'm talking about.
It's like, what the hell?
No remorse and everything.
The only but is like he's only going to get 5 years.
Oh, yeah. That's a bigger, the but is just about traffic laws, but that one's a bigger but. But the case itself is like...
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to clarify for people wondering how come we don't talk about some of these things.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever you put, we still read. That's how I came across the story. Then I saw it all over the news today also.
Yeah, correct.
But cool. What is your one Shiok thing? Or maybe I'll do my one.
Yeah, you want to do your one Shiok comment then. Yeah.
Then you end off your one Shiok thing. So on the last episode, Pritam Singh doesn't want to be PM and Thailand reverses cannabis ban. Someone on Reddit goes by the username Amy Pony, who I believe lives in Bangkok. They pointed out that living here for 2 years, the whole weed issue is 100% political, which is what I think you also brought up during the podcast. Likely tied to increasing Chinese influence since they take a hard stance on drugs. So according to them, in Bangkok, most of the consumption is by foreigners, with locals barely engaging.
Yeah.
It's more of a lifestyle trend. So you can imagine maybe the early adopters,
Yeah.
The rollout was messy, regulation was weak, and it shows more in places like Phuket. But in Bangkok, some dispensaries are actually very well executed. Money was clearly spent, and the spaces are impressive. So pointing out that, of course, these business owners will be upset. They built something cool and now it's being taken away. So, and also one difference, I think whenever we talk about drugs in Singapore, we have one way of thinking about it. They pointed out Thailand is huge.
Yeah.
Governance is fragmented. It's extremely political. The rollout was poorly handled and it played very differently in every region. So, it's not a simple yes-no. There's a lot of politics. So I guess with that context, you can imagine a lot of countries, Singapore included, saying cannabis rollout, making it legal, is 100% bad. I do feel that, it does open up the possibility of drug abuse, but it's also not that black and white.
Yeah.
So I mean, interesting perspective from someone
who lives
living in Thailand.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And what about your one Shiok thing, man?
My one Shiok thing is a video titled "First Time Stealth Camping in Fraser's Hill, Malaysia, with my Land Cruiser. Am I ready for this?" So this YouTuber, Tree Bud, I think, she has a little Jeep that that she's done up the inside really quite beautifully to have a bed and have all these things that you can actually go camping in the back of the Jeep.
Singaporean?
No, Malaysian, I think. So she drives a Jeep to Fraser's Hill, which is a mountain village in Pahang. And she just... there's this thing called stealth camping. Do you know what? Have you heard of it? It's just basically when you go camping in places where technically you're not allowed to camp or sleep overnight. But you are sleeping in the back of your car, which also is... I think I'm not sure about the legality of that in Malaysia especially. But they do that. She does that as a thing in this video where she drives a Land Cruiser and then she just finds this little car park that's next to a toilet and then she just camps there overnight. And quite. I mean, doesn't have the polish of a lot of those camping videos where there's very, very cinematic and everything. And I mean, she is in the car park and nothing more, right? But it's quite cool. It's still charming. Charming because it's like, you think about going to Malaysia, but you really talk about, I'm going camping in Malaysia or anything, right? And in this case, she has quite an adventure and and because she's a solo female traveler also. So there was quite scary part when in the middle of the night, some men in the car parked next to her and then they were just having on their phones outside, and then she's very kanchiong because she's sleeping there alone in the middle of the night.
Oh shit, it's so cool. I mean, she's definitely well stocked She got a coffee maker, gaming console.
Yeah, she's playing console games while stealth camping and then grinding coffee and everything. So it looks like fun. So maybe next time that's what you can do for your next Malaysia trip. Stealth camping.
This really is a trend that nice to see it take off in Singapore, Malaysia.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow.
Interesting, right? Yeah.
Wow, solid.
Yeah, I think her other videos DIY mini pop-up cafe in the middle of the road. I guess she did a DIY cafe from her vehicle. So yeah, quite
solid.
Fun.
Cool, man.
Opens out the possibilities right, of travel in Malaysia.
Yeah, man. Things to do.
Okay. But cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. Remember to follow us on social media. Sign up for our newsletter. It's called Your Little Bit.
Yes.
Because we will leave you with our little bits of one Shiok Things every week. And we're going to be announcing something quite exciting soon. So sign up for that. And if you want to work with us,
please email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just check out ministryoffunny.com.
Sweet. Cool. Thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you all soon.